Um, yeah, so um, cool. So a little bit about me. I usually go by Herman, pronouns he, him. You can reach me at hwdong@umich.edu. Office hours by appointments. There's the link on the course website. But it's the same time every week, just that book it so that we can arrange it easier. And my office is up on the hill. Have you heard of Stearns? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's up on the hill. Like, few people know there's, an office there. But anyway, Stearns, 131. Before office hour, you can also do Zoom. It's much easier. It's just like 10 to 15-minute work from here. And so my research area is in generative AI for music audio. And recently I've also looking into some video. I'm a big fan of movies and music. So I'm really interested in looking into, how we can do for sound design and, film music scoring. Which is rather new because, you now see these music generator, image generator. But the longer you play with these tools, you will realize the more controls you want, the harder the test is. And usually it's sort of like counterintuitive because people always thought that, the more, if you give it the chord progression, if you give it everything they need, the model is doing something easier. But actually, what we found over the time is that the more controls you have, the harder the test is. Because you sort of have to understand what your input is. Think about, film music scoring is that you have to understand what's the visual rhythm of the movie. What's the underlying storyline? What's the mood? What's the emotion? What's the story over behind it, so that you can compose the right music for it. So that's what we meant by the more control, the harder the test is. But I also do a lot of Gen AI. I used to work a lot on like symbolic music generation, which is basically just MIDI generation. Sounds better as symbolic music. But basically, for music generation, we have like symbolic music generation or audio domain music generation. So for symbolic music generation is that you're generating like scores, MIDI, where are the notes, what's the pitch, how long is the duration. But for audio domain music generation is now what we see in these, music gen, music LM, or Suno, all the music tools nowadays. Mostly they are in audio domain, which means that it doesn't actually generate the music in the way we understand. It generate those as waveform directly. And later in the class, you will see that it just sounds like magic. And we have no idea whether these models are actually doing anything that mimic our way of writing music. It's more like, it's just modeling all those one and zeros for the waveform and then try to replicate that. So there's a lot of nuance in this field. I also do sound effects generation. So sort of like sound design for film, but I also do like text to audio generation. Recently, I've also been some research on a cappella research. Not yet sure what we are trying to do, but for now, we are just looking into separation, stem separation. So, if you have a full song you listen on YouTube, can you extract the guitar track only? Or can I remove the guitar track so that I can play along with it? Or think about karaoke. Can we remove the vocals so that can I sing along? Or, I just extract the vocals so that I can practice for in the acapella case, we are looking into, building a vocal app that, if we can do source separation to separate the SATB, then potentially we could also build these kind of rehearsal app or a vocal coach app that you can sing along with your ensemble, even through Zoom or, an offline rehearsal. So I'm doing all sort of research on music, audio, and video, and I guess the common thing is that I like stuff that's hard to evaluate. That's my definition of Gen AI is that things that's very, very hard to evaluate whether it's working or not. And we have to always think about how you evaluate these tools. And that's why I think it's interesting, because that sort of brings us back to the discussion versus engineering versus art. Sometimes lots of engineering question is very easy to define the solution, and you just the metrics or the measurements, and then you just try hard to optimize so that it works and find the solution. But now if we are doing music, audio, and video, or broadly art focus research, then it's very hard to define what works or what's not. So you have to think about what are the ways that you can model things that you're interested in more efficiently. Cool. That's a very long introduction. But this class is about music and AI. So we will talk about music and of course talk about AI. But more importantly, what's the intersection between them? So we will talk a lot about the different aspects of AI music. So people tend to think about AI music just about creation because that's what, very trendy recently. But, it has long been there for I don't know, like decades. Think about music recommendation, like Spotify, like YouTube Music, Apple Music. You're using it. If you are using these service, then you are exposing it to it every day. But also, you have Shazam, like the query by Hao-Wen. So that has been there for I think more than 10 years at least. So all these are sort of like AI music in some sense, just that nowadays we are using more deep neural networks to enable these. But we will talk about analysis, creation, retrieval, and processing. So for analysis, you think about, like recognition, like pitch detection, beat tracking. Where are the beats? Where are the first beat, like down beats, what we call it? We also do mood. I think I have a slide for that. Yeah, we have like key core recognition, genre, mood classification, but also transcription. Like you listen to an audio and everybody wants to know how to replicate it on piano. So can we get a score for that? This question has been existing for 50 years, but not yet. We're so far away from, getting anywhere close to that. So that's sort of like, get us an understanding that, some of our current music AI models are not actually doing the way we are, understanding music. So that's why, still transcription is not yet solved and not yet perfect in any sense. We also have, optical music recognition. Sounds very fancy, but it's basically, you take an image on the sheet music and can you transcribe that into a digital format like music XML, like MIDI. Music XML is like if you use the MuseScore. Yeah. So PDF into like something you can edit in MuseScore. So under MuseScore, it's a format called Music XML. Yeah, so that's how they store the whole MuseScore things on the computer. So optical music recognition is the corresponding word in natural language processing, optical character recognition. So you have a books and you scan it and you want to know what are the words. So you want to recognize all those characters. And so for optical music recognition is that you look at the score and, we are talking about, even scores that's, artifacts in the medieval era. So you will have a score that's, lots of artifacts, lots of missing parts. Can you still recognize some of the engraving system back then? And finally, structure analysis, detecting where are the chorus, where are the verse. And source separation, definitely the most commonly used AI music tools. If you want to do sampling, if you want to do stem extraction, then you need source separation to extract the part that you're interested in. Creation, that's what people are mostly talking about nowadays. It has been there since the start of AI. So the start of AI is roughly around 1950-ish. And then in 1950-ish, people started to think about automatic music composition. So, that's an uncanny connection between computer automation and music. Because people always think of music, there are some rules underlying, and can we capture that through computer? And it has been, almost 7 or 8 years of this, automatic music composition. Now we call it, AI power, I don't know, music generation. But also it extends to arrangement. Think about, if you have a lead sheet, can you make it a full ensemble? Or if you have a full ensemble, can you rearrange it into a piano piece? So that's basically, in if you are trained as a conductor, then you have to learn to play piano, play the full score on the piano. Just do it, like sight reading. But arrangement could be useful in that case. And we also have like performance synthesis. This is just a fancy word, but there's no other word, I guess. It's like expressive modeling of the music. Is like automatic, player piano basically. That can we make it not sound like a boring MIDI file? Can we make it more natural? And also improvisational setup, that it's much harder because you have to understand what the input is and then respond to that. And we talk about retrieval and processing, query by humming, definitely recommendation. And also these are very new, all the production AI tools. Now there's lots of tools, but we are still very in the very early stage. If you heard of Isotope? Nope. So it's like a company building a lot of AI tools, I think 10 years ago, but never branded as AI. But now everybody's doing AI. So they are now, the leading AI company in building all these plugins on DAW, on those. So they have, AI system for editing, for mixing, for mastering, and also, for noise removal, music enhancement, a bunch of, AI suite. But basically think about it like in those, whenever you have to do mixing, you have to, drag the EQ or stuff like that, or panning. But can we use AI to at least give you a better starting point? So that's sort of what this direction is about, and it's very new. But we are now seeing, Ableton, Cubase, Logic Pro likely. But all these companies are all doing AI plugins. Questions? No. Yeah, Isotope, Izotope. Yep. And finally, some more advanced topics. Hopefully, we'll get to that. But it's much harder, and we are so far away from any of these, interactive tools. It's definitely useful in the performance perspective, improvisation perspective, but it's very hard because you have to understand what the user's intent, the artist's intention, and you have to respond to that. And then, singing voice synthesis, think about it like a upgraded version of Siri, is that, vocal synthesis or music generation now combined together become singing voice synthesis. Suno actually do kind of okay-ish in singing voice synthesis. So it's a good start. No one knows how they did it because singing voice synthesis has been stuck for a decade, and then Suno suddenly released really good singing voice synthesis. So now people realize that it might be actually possible. So we will definitely see a lot of progress in the next 10 years for singing voice synthesis. And, some design audiovisual tools. Interesting things are happening in this field. So I guess that's all about it. We will hopefully get an overview of the field of AI music to get a sense of what are the landscape of AI music, what are the tasks and what are the different research direction and what are the current existing tools that we can use. You also learn fundamental AI concept and principles. Um, it's not meant to replicate what we have learned if you've ever taken any AI or machine learning course, but it just prepare you to recap or to get a sense what these tools about. But that's not the key of this course. We are not um, very tech focused in that sense, but it's also more tech focused than typical music class. We also learn representative AI tools, and you will also use it. We will have some, assignments that basically you will be exploring some of the AI music tools. Cool. Um, I'm looking at this. I guess any questions so far? Yeah.
I guess how much of like research done in like the intersection of music and AI is like closed source? Like I know a lot of people Google's research. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of publicly available information. I guess how much of research in this like new field is like behind closed doors? How much is like open? So
Usually when you started, it's open source. It's like more academic. So Hao-Wen by search by Hao-Wen, query by Hao-Wen is there's a seminal paper on that. So that's like 20 years, 30 years ago, and then it just get commercialized and then it got closed sourced. So AI music for now is the same. Lots of very interesting AI music generation, AI music editing, like mixing research, and then at some point, just like Suno, like commercialize the generation part of it, and then people just compete and then become closed source. So I guess it's just like I guess all the um technology field that at some point it will get commercialized. It's sort of like ChatGPT. It used to be academic only, but once there are some companies realize that it's very profitable, and then now Gemini, Grok, um, ChatGPT, they're just fighting one another. So it's very hard to make it open source again. But I guess, the research in academia is still ongoing, and there's tons of research questions that we are interested in. And so, think about AI music. If you want the best quality, best sounding quality, not about the best music quality, but best, I don't know, high fidelity, I don't know, 24K hertz, 48K hertz, you have to use industrial um services because they are the only way they can get license or even internal training data. But for academia, usually we just stop at 16K hertz. That's unfortunate fact, but we are doing other research about adding controls or mitigating the the bias or overly Western dominated generated outputs, or think about, can we extend it beyond Western notation, the Western notations, but also think about, can we detect these copyright infringement, or can we build a better sort of like business model that can attribute how much percentage of your output is inference or inspire or can be attributed to the training data that you have. So all these research doesn't need to be very computation powerful, nor very data intensive. And so I guess that's a way to look at these technology field. It's more like LLM and chatbot kind of. LLM is more academic, but chatbot is like a product. Yeah. But yeah, that's also why it's interesting to look at this field. It's like a field that's slowly getting commercialized, but there's very many opportunities. And I think the academic field is also quickly adapting to that. If you still want to do music generation, then you have to sort of like adapt your direction rather than competing with this industry. it makes sense if you want to make an academic equivalent so that we can, research it. If it's open source, then it's much easier to mitigate whether there are some, hidden bias or, unwanted, features of these tools so that we can mitigate it or we can fix it. But at the same time, there is a bunch of direction that current industry partners are just not interested in that because it's not profitable in the near future. Yeah, cool. I guess it's also bring us to this. So this is the way I look at, music and technology. Then we'll sort of bring you a little bit more context and history of music and AI, the relationship between music and AI. So, if you just look at more broadly on the technology side, the music and technology always co-evolves, in the history. So, the violin making industry and the era of um think about baroque or classical music era. You have to think about how you build the music halls, but you also have to look at how you build the violin so that you dig into the acoustic property of how sounds work. But also, the field of new age or computer music or even electronic music is impossible without the invention of synthesizers. So it's interesting to look at the history of synthesizer because synthesizer are built originally to mimic the acoustic sounds, but at the end, now we just realized that, until today, it's still very, very hard to, mimic the most natural violin sounds. But people figured out that, well, actually, synthesizer provide us a very, expressive way to do music and to extend beyond the acoustic. So like we are limited by the acoustic sounds that can be made by wood or natural material. But now synthesizer actually provide you another way of expressive ability. So that's a very interesting way to look at how music and technology co-evolve. We want to mimic the sound of acoustic, so we invented some of the early synthesizers, but that bring us new genres like new age, and then it contribute back to the development of synthesizers. So now you have more digital synthesizer, but you have analog synthesizer as well, but it's sort of like co-evolve at the same time. So in the next few slides, I just want to show some interesting examples of how music and AI could work together. So this first one is Yamaha working with a dancer. And so what they want to do is that can we translate the dancer's movement to control the piano at the back. So they install some of the EMG sensors. So EMG is I always forgot. I should just put the full name. Electrical something about muscle or movement. But basically, sensors that is sort of like EEG sensor for your brainwave, but EMG is measuring your muscle movements. And they use AI to translate those to control the piano. There's no sound. Let me see. Hmm. Mhm. Well, it was. Mm. Mhm. Oh. They used to have the speakers up here. Now it's just next to my ear. It's yeah, they will likely move it somewhere else. Um, cool. So you can see that how they sort of like just their raw inputs are just like one and zeros on these muscle signals. You will see it somewhere here. Yeah, so these are just like those different um, lines of measurement on those sensors, and how can you convert that into controlling the MIDI, like the tempo and the notes to play. So this is similar, to think about, in EEG case where you have brainwaves, you just so like get a sensors, all the brainwaves that you have, you can measure, and you want to translate into a controlling interface. And we also have this. This is Shimon. So this is a robot, marimba playing robot. It has a very cool hands. I think it's clever because they are not mimicking. This is like 10 years ago. So at that time, it's very hard to have like human-like hands to play marimba. But anyway, they figured out that, well, we don't necessarily need to be human-like. So they just make a very cool marimba. But one of the more interesting characteristic of Shimon is that Shimon will actually look at you when you are playing with Shimon, and the head will move according to the tempo, so that you have sort of like the cues between musicians. It's like 10 years ago, but it's still very cool to look at this. So you see the robot arms. Ooh, so and so I'm actually playing a new piece, so it's not generating music, right on the spot. But this is 10 years ago. But what's happening under the hood is that Shimon, there's a machine learning algorithm that's listening to the music live. So they are actually improvising. You have the not real improvising, but at least you get to capture what the musician are trying to adapt the tempo, or or the expressions, so that Shimon will try to respond to that, and then try to communicate in a very limited way, but interesting. So this Shimon, like, I think it's more than 10 years ago. It's almost like 15 years ago. It's 2011 or something. Yeah, like more than 10 years ago. And this is again with Yamaha. So this lady has cerebral palsy. So she cannot, use her hands to play the full piano piece. But in this very cool performance is that can we use AI to enable that. So this is Kiwa Usami playing with the orchestra, where there's an AI algorithm that hint the musician about where to play next, so that she can follow and play along with the orchestra. So, this is like, using AI to at one hand, figured out what's the tempo of the whole the orchestra is, and at the same time, you want to hint. You see the player piano that has the hint. It's not actually playing, but once you hit it, it will make the sound. So you have the hint. So you can think about it more like an assistive keyboard, or like intelligent keyboard, where the goal is not to replace you, to play it for you, but rather to assist you, or to suggest what to play next, or to make it more accessible for the general public. And lastly, that's let me see, what's the verdigris ensemble. This is happening all around the world, where people are exploring. This is not generated music, but generated art, or generative AI image that are generally using AI generated art to enhance the music performance. So there's all sort of like interesting immersive media that's generated by AI, but also more interactive or more responsive by using some computer vision, or music information retrieval algorithms, so that these arts can adapt to the performance. So that's also something that beyond music, but more on the immersive experience at the spot. So these are just very limited for examples of how music and AI can together create a very interesting harmony. And the rest of the class will be a lot about more what are the technical perspective, what are the fundamental tools, and what are the existing tools that we can use. But these are all sort of potential application that you can use these tools for. Cool. So I guess just course logistics. This is the course website. Everything will be there. Syllabus, schedule, readings. We don't have readings, but just optional readings. We also post the recordings there. And I don't use Canvas. I try it and I don't like it. So everything will be on the course website, much easier to host it myself. And I would just use emails for announcement, and we will have a Google chat, perhaps, for QA. That should be easier than emails. Other than that, that's the communication channels. Email should be the easiest way to reach me, or Google chat. Cool. So prior coding experience is recommended. But to be honest, I don't think it's a must. We will be exploring from the very beginning. So Python, mostly Python. So if you've taken any programming course, you should be fine. I guess the only criteria is that if you are comfortable reading code written by others, you can stare at it and don't feel scared, then you should be fine. And the assignment shouldn't be too intense. Mostly just looking at the code and try to adapt it. That's it. So it's not that hardcore, and you will always have hints and ways to verify whether you are doing correctly. So we have a bunch of homework and programming assignments, for each. So homework should be much easier. You're just exploring some of the tools that's existing. So you will just go play with it and, do something with those tools. But also, AI song contest is a very interesting homework where you would just listen to, this is like an annual AI song contest where people will submit their work, and there will be a annual competition. So you just explore, and the most interesting part is that they will have a short PDF or like a paragraph talking about how they actually use AI in their process. So it's not just, boring research paper or, just like a music on Spotify that you don't know how it was generated or created. But, for AI song contest, it's more about, how you together work with AI to create these music. We'll have like 4 programming assignments. Although it looks terrifying, but it's not that tricky. I think the only one that's much harder is the last one, musical note classification, because we are talking about AI, so I hope we can train something. So that's the only one you will be training something. Otherwise, for all the other parts, it's more like understanding what are the tools, what are the programming languages, Python, but what are the packages that we typically use to get a sense what those are? Think about FFT. How do you do that in Python? How do you read musical scores in Python? How do you, synthesize those into audio? For source separation, how do you, use machine learning models, like go on Hugging Face and clone something and then run it? That's usually what we have to do. Then you will be ahead of, waiting for a release of product and they charge you. So, for Hugging Face, you have a bunch of very late, the latest machine learning models. You can play with that if you know how to clone that and use Python to do it. And the last one, then we will train something, but there will be on the very surface level deep learning, and everything will be provided. So most likely you would just be, running the code to get a sense what training a model would be like. But, at the end of the day, most, if you're not, machine learning developer, then in the future, most likely you are wanting to use these tools using Python or just to code and do the inference rather than training these tools, these models. Yep. So that's the homework and programming assignments. Shouldn't be too challenging. Policy, you can find it on syllabus. Everything has to be completed on your own. You can exchange, but not in the way of writing and code. Turn in everything even if it's incomplete. I'm very generous, I think, in grading. So turn in and I will try my best to give you scores. Yeah, these can be found on the syllabus. Cool. And we also have a project, but given the size, I guess it will likely be individual project. Otherwise, it will be just one group. But anyway, these we will figure out the details later. But there will be some milestones, group forming, and think about the pitch. You have to think about the idea, and then you will do it. I think we don't need to do video presentation. So last semester we tried in-person presentation, and it was a mess because there are so many groups, and we couldn't finish it by the time. So I'm thinking about video presentation, but I think it depends on how big the class is in the end. And we can do in-person presentation, and there's a report. Cool. So the project, 3 topics, very broadly defined. So you can either build a new AI music tool. You don't necessarily need to train something, but you can just combine some of that or build a cool pipeline. So last semester, there someone doing, image to music generation. So look at a, stormy, I don't know, like a house and in the cliff in a stormy weather. So how do you generate some music that fit that mood? So they just figured out that, well, can we just use ChatGPT to, now ChatGPT is multimodal, so you can send the image and then you can get a sense what's that is about. So they just build a pipeline that you send requests to OpenAI's API with that image, and then you ask like, what would be the words to describe this image, and then you use that to prompt a text to music generator. So you can use open source like Music Gen models, or you can even send requests to another music service. So that's what we meant by building a new AI music tool. But someone also, some groups also wanted to train something, but it will be very, very challenging. But so plan ahead and try to scope it down if you want to train something. Otherwise, you can also think more creatively on, building a tool on top of existing tools. You can also explore creative and artistic use of AI tools. I think the best, work, art, or, genres, think about new age, or think about electronic music with synthesizers. Oftentimes, the best music is created from misuse of the tools that you have. So also think about DJ, scrapping. Exploring the different ways of use of AI tools and think more creatively and artistically. And last semester, there's also some groups are analyzing, existing AI music tools. And there's a very interesting result that we found in class is that there's a group that are, doing AI music mastering versus human mastering. They are past students. So, we can do mastering ourselves. And turns out, most people couldn't tell the difference between AI generated AI mastering and human master results. So that's interesting. So, these are also possible topics, and, you can analyze existing AI music tools, comparing different tools, or, even doing this Turing test or user study to sort of like get a sense what's the implication and what are the impacts of these tools. Yeah. 20% homework, 40% programming assignments, and 40% project. Everything will be handled on Grayscope. These are some very good resource. But anyway, this is a very new field, so it's very hard to find, organized textbook or resource. But there's a bunch other similar course that you can look at. Their slides could be useful. And the first two are more on the processing, and one on processing, one on production. So for creation, it's very new. So there's no textbook yet. Attendance. Well, just strongly encourage, but it's fine if you want to join on Zoom. And the lecture will be recorded and put on the course website. And I think we only need to make sure that project pitch, you have to be in person. That's it. And Gen AI usage, I always like to talk about this. Talking about Gen AI usage in the Gen AI course. So yeah, feel free to use, of course. This is an AI course, but you must disclose your usage of the Gen AI service. And I guess the easiest way that I look at it is that you take full responsibility of all the tools, all the materials generated by AI, as if you had produced them yourself. So, ideas should be attributed. You still need to do all the reference, citation, and facts should be true. Otherwise, feel free to use them. And you are actually encouraged to explore how you use them, because sometimes you will get some idea, autocomplete. Can we do autocomplete in music? there are sort of like ChatGPT things that ChatGPT can do, but how does that translate to artist assistant or creative assistant? Him? Oh, this is about integrity. No exception. Everything will be reported. Questions? Good. Slightly more CS-like than music-like in the way how I formulate the syllabus. Cool. Um, I have a few slides more, but we can also end here.
What's
It's just we could go over it, I guess. Just talking about what are the state of the art. I guess just take a look on the syllabus. It's online, so everything I put here, it's online. Cool. Anyway, we still got 20 minutes-ish. So I guess the rest I would just talk a little bit about not history, but more like how fast things has evolved in just the past 3 years. So this is the state of the art, the slide that I made 2 years ago, and now it's no longer state of the art. So that's the the curse of this field for now. I mean, so not so long ago in June 2023, this is the state of the art. So this is MusicGen, the Facebook MusicGen that was a big thing then in academia, because now it's the first time that people can scale everything we've seen in academia research, academic research paper in this large scale. And now we are sort of one way closer to what we are expecting at the beginning. So this is not so long ago. Very stop music like, because that's the trending data. Oops. So this is just like 2 years ago, and you can actually play with it here online. So I would say, oh, it's the server has died.
I'm going to turn it over to our assistant director, Ellen Segura, to get us started. So
That's another YouTube video I'm playing. Yeah, that's sad, but I guess there will be someone doing the same thing on Hugging Face. It used to have a very nice place that you can play with the model. I guess there will be some fork. I could figure it out. Yeah, they're all gone. But anyway, that was the time that I guess the final open source model in MusicGen from all these big companies. Now everything is closed. So this is the last one that we have. And there's also one interesting fact is that I believe they actually secure all the license from the stock music, so they can release this model publicly. But now I'm not saying that they don't do licensing anymore, but now there are more legal concerns about it. And you now, if you want to sell it as a product, you have to take liability on those outputs. And actually, when the AI technology evolves, the closer the more powerful the model can replicate some of your training data, the more liability you are, you have. So, that's also part of the reason why these companies are getting more cautious about that. But these was, 2 years ago. It's just doing prompt to music generation. So these images I just put there for reference. So that's not the input, but you can get a sense that, why people were interested in this at that time is that, even though it's just sounds like stock music, but, stock music is also an industry, and, there's a lot of potential that you can potentially create the music for some of your, say commercials or, show video, TikTok videos that, mass production, or not even mass production, it's just a tiny single button. Then you type in and then you get the music and then you can share your content quickly. So that's sort of the time when people get real serious about the potential business model about text to music generation, but in general, AI music generators. But this is no longer state of the art. There is a bunch of new models, and also this is not so long ago in July 2023. This is interesting to see some of the early version of AI music and AI video generator, because I think they actually have more interesting artifacts. Nowadays, if you do some of the video generator, it just look too good, and there's no interesting artifacts. So there's a famous quote that the artifacts of the current media will become the signature of that era, several decades later. So that's sort of the thing about AI music and AI image generator is that some of the, I don't know, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you've seen some of the very crazy AI generated art and generated image that doesn't look like anything, but that actually is very interesting in a way that is sort of like a signature of this era. Did you notice there's one additional beat at the end? So yeah, this is like 2 years ago, and this is actually a commercial for a Tiger whiskey. So you get to get the sense why people are very excited about this technology back then. But yeah, a more closer things, I have to update this every year. So until when? So Suno AI, this is still not the latest. Now we have like Suno, you can do a lot of things. I think it actually now in doing the lyrics and the vocal singing voice synthesis, because most of the other music generators, they don't do the voice, they don't do the vocals. So Suno is one of the leading company that actually are doing singing voice synthesis, and it's actually doing really good. So I guess there's still a bunch things to be done in this. It's very cool if you've tried Suno. It can actually generate the lyrics with this rhymes and the structure, and it will also have the correct number of syllables mostly. But you can also modify it in your way, and then you can generate the song, the vocals, and then it will generate all the other tracks for it. You could also try it. I won't show it here, but anyway, that's Suno. And we also have like music FX. This is by Google. So you can also play with it. So all of these are still available for now. I think for Music FX, you need to log in. That's the only downside. And you have to take a look on the license, the terms. They have something interesting there. But basically you could just do something like, and it would generate something for you. Well, anyway, I guess more interesting is the music effects DJ. We will see later. So this is just like the typical text to music generator where you have different versions. They sound exactly the same. Anyway, you can change those. But I think more interesting is this music FX DJ, where you can generate never-ending music that will just stream over the time. So now it's a mixture of transform, jumpe, and band. Now we can add more jumpe. So sometimes if you carefully choose the keywords, sometimes you can make a very interesting smooth transition between them. And so what's happening under the hood is that you look at this, it's like every 5 or 10 seconds it's actually generating new things. And now we're back to jump back. Yeah, but anyway, it takes some time to get a sense what's going on. But basically, you've seen here that there's ramble-like things, but basically it's like streaming, like never ending. You just use the previous generated music and try to continue it. But now with the new set of constraints or keywords that you are prompting the model, and it will just doing it over again. So this actually create a very interesting new way of exploring music generation rather than just text to music. That's one shot. But now this, you can think about it like many applications think about, ambience generation or, gaming that you don't necessarily have a fixed, fixed duration that you want to compose. Or, even more interesting, like interactively, like in a game that, you are, triggering some of the objects, and it will sort of like blend it in smoothly into the music that you have. So this is a music effect DJ. Pretty cool. I think it just think out of the box how people can jam or interact with these tools. And there's actually a very cool Jacob Collier working with this music effect DJ.
Build a website you love.
I've never fixed. So yeah, he basically with this music effect DJ.
And this is the interface. I was just messing around before we got started here with these three.
This is like a almost 2-hour session. If you're interested, take a look at it. The slides is on the syllabus, so you can find a link. But it's very cool because you see how he sort of like play with the model, but at the same time try to interact with the model.
3 prompts here. Sounds. And I think what you'll isn't that something? It's really something. The reality is, everybody, you can ideas. How about Charango? Charango. I wonder how it will interpret this. I'll show you what a Charango is, because I know you're wondering. A Charango. It's doing a traditional chord sequence to it, and it's often used in within other ensembles. But let's see if it can interpret this in some kind of interesting way. No, it kind of did sequence of that. The before they are. Oh, I like that.
anyway, it's pretty long, but over the time, Jacob just exploring how you can work with this interesting, limited, but interesting models to get something done. So this is the final thing that he
I must say, with all of your incredible suggestions, with the help of Music FX DJ, which you see here before you, yeah, this is the this is the creation of the day. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Questions?
Seems like it's really good, like, putting like a drum in. That's kind of
It's not generating in one shot, so that's Jacob's magic. Yeah, I think he tried to have a pad on the line so that the whole theme is connected. So I mean, I think this is very interesting because these tools, I mean, if you look at it, it's like it cannot do most of the thing that you want. But if you use it, wisely, you can actually still create a very interesting thing. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think Jacob's actually, and you see the more like Mongolian throw voice thing, that's at the beginning and at the end. So that's sort of like have an ABA-ish structure. But at the same time, I think the most interesting part of Music FX DJ or some of the music AI model is when the genre, you can slowly morph from one genre to another genre. And that happens a lot of times in this composition. So who knows? In the future, I mean, we may see some of the new, interesting way of composing music because of some of these tools. And Jacob's actually also, he also play and sing into it. So lots of it is not just purely AI generated. Usually, you generate something and then drag it in, and that's just one of those. So, most of the time there is multiple generation results stacked together, and you have to make your decision to make it sound nice rather than this is one shot that the model can generate things like that. Yeah, but I guess that's a very interesting. If you're interested, I didn't watch the full episode, but at least the beginning and get 10 minutes ish about how he actually use these tools is very mind blowing. It's like you know, how you make a lot of seemingly boring elements together into something interesting. I think this is the sort of last slide. This is Movie Gen. This is from Meta. I think they have a new version recently, but this is early this year or late last year. So they are generating videos from text, and they can. I think there's let me find it. I think the music part where it's here. Yeah, creating sound effects and soundtracks. And then this, and it's like so these are all generated. So there's no music, but you get a sense of what I meant by, you know, sound design. And I love this. And it just feels so random. But anyway, this is, you know, this is much harder than, you know, pure music generation because, you know, you have to generate the visual, and then now, you know, music could be too stereotype or too cliche, but at the same time, if you prompt it properly, it could be very fun. So some of these, you know, we call it multimodal, which means that you have, you know, visual, auditory, and, you know, text, or, you know, even like human sensors like EEG. So you have multimodal data that coming into the generated system, and sometimes it just yeah. So, you know, if the model wants to do this, then it has to understand when it explodes, and then you have to match that. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's, you know, more state of the art, but still, I mean, every week, every month, I guess not every week. I think this has a newer version, and MusicFX is also releasing new version over the time. Cool. I guess that's it. We talk about music and technology, and, you know, that definitely linked to how we should view music and AI. It will co-evolve, and that's why we want to get a sense what these tools are. Everything is on syllabus. We talk about some of the examples, and we talk about, you know, not so long ago, it was the state of the art, but now things are evolving really fast. And next lecture, we will talk about what is AI, more a philosophical discussion, but also get a sense what do we mean by AI? And later on, we will talk about machine learning and deep learning, which is a subfield of AI, just become popular because they are pretty powerful nowadays. So lots of things are built on top of machine learning and deep learning, but not saying that, you know, AI has been there for 70 years, multiple AI winters. You likely have heard it in news, but it comes a long way. Cool.